Hi everyone. Tomorrow is World Suicide Prevention Day 2021. This is an issue close to my heart. And this morning I did a tweet, which I'm just going to read to you. And I said this: suicide for me was about the intolerable pain I felt I couldn't escape. The shame, worthlessness, and self-hatred was all I could feel. My vision narrowed and I couldn't rationalize other options. If you're worried, asking someone if they're thinking of suicide is so important. And I did that tweet because one of the myths around suicide and talking about it is that if you ask somebody if they're thinking of taking their life or thinking of suicide, that you're going to put that idea in their head, and that's not true. In fact, it's been shown that because it can be in those short moments of time when people want to act, that in fact it can help prevent somebody going on, and we can put other steps in place to support people. But I then got a comment, a question actually further down, which said, well, Lisa, how could people in your life best support you when you were feeling this way? And I guess Twitter, doesn't allow many words, and I felt I was doing a disservice to answer it on Twitter. So I'm doing this hopefully short video. I'll try and be succinct and not waffle, but I've been thinking about this over the week anyway. So just to start off by giving a trigger warning, I am talking about self-harm, suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and I'm also talking about relationships with close people in my life who were witness to what I was going through. And those people who know me know that I've had a lifetime of struggling with these issues, and I'm so much better now because of a complex, many different factors kind of came together to help me understand what was going on for me. So please, depending where you're at, do whatever is safe and best for your well-being. Just to say too, I do have a candle burning here. I'm very aware over this week of people bereaved. I've been bereaved myself, and I also know the pain and hopelessness and despair of being in that place. And now that I'm so much better, I've also seen what the people in my life who loved me went through. So I have this candle lit, and if you can't listen further, just know that I am thinking of people out there who are suffering and struggling with this. So in answer to that question, what could people have done? And this is some people might find this quite difficult to hear, and they might judge me, they might judge my husband. I've asked permission from him. We've discussed this and he's happy for me to share. But part of my work is about helping people understand what it's like, how to be with people in distress, because very often we don't know how to be and we want to jump in and fix things. And it's very frightening if somebody is self-harming or tells you that they're feeling suicidal. I've been at the end of that myself, and with all my experience, I just want to go in there and keep them safe. But the importance of listening and compassion, is so much part of the process. And one of the things I've done is I can now deliver community suicide awareness training, and I've done it with the For Mental Health organization because their module is so much based on, from my experience, what I've really needed when I've been in that place of distress, feeling suicidal, really wanting to self-harm, wanting to act on things. And the need for that compassionate presence, the not trying to fix, the being with, is so important. And that is a bit of a skill to learn. And it's also about overcoming our fears, our own inadequacies, that we're going to maybe say something wrong. And yet I believe so often if we are able to access our heart place and actually connect with people in their distress, and just be ourselves with that, and just listen and ask questions. There are always places to signpost. In Northern Ireland, we can phone Lifeline. They can recommend what to do if it's an immediate crisis. There's always the emergency services. There's the emergency department. If it's during the day, you can contact your GP. So, I mean, that's one aspect of it, about being able to sit with someone in distress. And now that I'm so much better, I've still had times of very deep distress and suicidal thoughts, which have gone much further than I thought they ever would, as well as struggling with thoughts of self-harm and acting on it. And it's been amazing where I'm at in my journey now. And I have a friend who can just be with me in that distress and not try and fix it. And in that moment, in those moments or that time when I'm overwhelmed and think it'll never end, in fact, just having that assurance that it's okay, I hear you, you've got through this before and it's not always going to feel this bad. Just being with has actually got me through some dark nights, because I'm still in the middle of working through and healing from a lot of untreated trauma. So it's not just like there's a magic fix, but I've got so many tools in place now and so much more understanding of what's going on for me. But that question about, what would have helped you, this is my reality now, and this is what I understand about where I'm at now. In 2009, and I've been through cycles of struggling very much with my mental health, really for a lifetime, for my teenage years. And in 2009, I had a relapse into my eating disorder, and I had 7 or 8 years of being terribly unwell. From really 2013, I was dismissed from my work, but from 2011, really, I didn't work until 2018. I was regularly self-harming, regularly attending the emergency department. I was in and out of our local inpatient unit, sometimes for a couple of weeks, sometimes for months. I'd ended up in ICU on a few occasions, overdosed on a number of occasions. I was seeing, I had my own community psychiatric nurse, but nothing was helping. I was put on more and more medication to try and manage the risk. I was depressed. I felt worthless. I couldn't get out of bed. I've always exercised a lot. With all the medication that I stopped being able to do that, although I have been on medication all my life, but it was just kept being increased because of the risk that I was. At one point, I went to a mentalization-based group for a short while. I got worse. I've recently found out, I think I had ECT on 4 or 5 occasions over that 7-year period. So I was really depressed. I could not see any worth in myself. I was actually just on a path of self-destruction. I managed somehow in between that to keep up things with my children, some kind of routine going with them, that kind of thing. But it was getting to the point where my husband was having to fetch the children from childcare, bringing them home, not knowing what he was going to come home to with me. It didn't matter what he said to me. I was not seeing things any differently. And I was just getting more and more depressed. And my world was seen through this lens of me just being useless. And yeah, and that is how I really felt. It was a terrible place to wake up every day, really thinking, I wish I would just be run over. I would think that going to, and I did some dreadful things and some frightening things that my husband had to witness and had to address and get me help for. Really dreadful things. And eventually in 2013, it became too much for him. And he has said, and he's given me permission to share this, that he believed all that while that that his love was enough to get me well and to solve this problem. And we did love each other. It wasn't like we had a difficult relationship even. But my depression and all that came with it, and and the self-harming and the suicidal behavior and the worthlessness, it took its toll. It was exhausting and it was frightening. And we had 2 young children who needed looked after, and he was still responsible for bringing in money to the house. And we don't have a lot of family. Well, I don't have any of my family here. We were fortunate that our neighbors helped us. So eventually in 2013, he said, I actually can't live with you anymore. And I was devastated and I was angry. And I thought he's rejecting me and pushing me out at a time when I most need him. I don't have any of my own people here. And it was hard, and we were separated for 5 years. But as he said, he had to look after his own mental health, and he was responsible for our children. And they had to be the priority, and he couldn't be dealing with me and with them. So, and I'm so fortunate because we did love each other, and he always said, you will always be the mother of my children. And I'm so grateful that he never spoke ill about me to them. And there were times that they were on supervised contact because of the self-harm and the unpredictability of that. And he continued to do what he can, but he needed to take a step back. So I talk about love, and yes, love is, I needed to know I was loved, even in the darkest place where I couldn't let any of it in, and I really couldn't. I couldn't allow that in for many reasons. But I couldn't have asked for him to love me more. I'm not going to talk about all my family in South Africa and other people in my life because it's a very personal thing, and I think it's important that people give permission. But with him, I couldn't have asked for more. I knew he loved me, but it wasn't getting through. And those 5 years, I ended up in treatments in South Africa. And I guess what I'm trying to say with that is, when I look back now where I'm at, I can fully understand and empathize with where he was at. And he did the right thing. I'm so grateful he did what he did. And yes, love is everything, but love wasn't enough to heal me. There were multiple factors, and it's so difficult to express this. It's not that love wasn't important and shouldn't be there and needed to be expressed, but I think about people who are living with somebody like me day in and day out, and the fear and the anxiety and the stress and the helplessness. I've even worked with staff, when I got so much better, and hearing some of their very strong emotions around somebody in my position, and just not knowing what else to do. And we know how badly resource services are. In Northern Ireland here, I think it's less than 6% of the health budget that mental health gets. There are not the resources and the specialist help available. For me, what was going on with me was a lifetime of untreated trauma. So my diagnosis was incorrect, and I had many of them. I wasn't getting treatment for the right thing. I was being treated for something else, and that wasn't even really treatment because there wasn't very much available. So I was in the cycle of into hospital, out of hospital, into crisis, more medication, ECT. I became a walking, talking, numbed out non-person, more disconnected when the thing I needed most was connection. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, if you're dealing with this day in and day out, to just go gently with yourselves. It's not perfect. And when I do say about love, yes, love is so healing and so needed. And it is love that is so much part of my healing now. But at that time, in our family unit, with what was available to help and support me, it wasn't enough what he was able to do. But that wasn't that he wasn't enough, and it wasn't that his love wasn't enough. It was that I had complex things going on, and I needed other kind of help. So Yeah, I guess it's a complicated issue, and you can put things out on Twitter or here or there, and we simplify things. And I just hope that somebody who's really struggling or feeling inadequate or like nothing they can do is enough, is there something in them? Yes, we can all learn and we can all grow and we all have a role to play, but it is an interconnected number of factors that have helped me get to this point where dealing with times when I'm distressed has become so manageable. I can work with services, I can work with my husband, I can work with my therapist and my friends. It is possible, but I've been so fortunate to get so many things in place. So, supporter, carer, whoever you are, reaching out for help yourselves. And I say that knowing as well that we so often, there's not always the help that should be there that we need. But just to say that that's okay, I'm not a bad person, although I feel sometimes the shame is dreadful. My husband's not a bad person. We both loved each other. We loved our children. We do love our children. And it's complicated. So I just send thoughts, wishes, one step at a time. And just, I hope there's something in there that's helpful. Go gently and thinking of everybody, not just this week, but over time. And to finish with, I have a light. Tomorrow I'm going to do a hike with Pip's charity. And I'm going to do that as a reflective journey about the fact that I thought I would be dead by 50, and I'm heading for 50 very rapidly. And I have an abundant life. It's not perfect, and I stumble and I fall and I struggle. And there's days when the thoughts get very dark, but I'm finding my way together, with others, walking alongside. And together we're so much stronger. So thinking of everybody out there. Take care.